And in fact, he also needs Mansell to finish out of the points at least once.
So Rahal, who seems to have the momentum at the right time of the season. Remember when he won his championships, he came on so strong at the end of the season. Well, he enjoyed his best run of the season at Elkhart Lake, got on the victory rostrum for the first time since Long Beach, and came here feeling very, very good and confident. He broke a cylinder liner in one of his Chevrolet engines on Friday, and he believed he could have been fastest in that session if he hadn't had that engine trouble.
Let's keep track of Danny Sullivan here. You want to know how rough this course is?
Just watch how the trees disappear over his head, too, even though now this is the slowest corner. Look at that. He goes inside Marco Greco. That was in Dennis McCormick's car.
So Danny Sullivan now heading for the stadium. Jan Beekes, you have an update on Danny?
Yes, we have an update as to why Danny is dropping back. He has radioed into the pits that he's low on boost. Now, we don't know if that's a wastegate problem or a pop-off valve problem. And as you guys know, it's those pop-off valves that cause mayhem down here for these crews. Next year, they should have an updated model.
Sullivan runs in 9th place. In fact, you just get a glimpse there of Mansell closing behind him. And Jimmy Vasser is right behind Mansell. So the young sophomore of the series doing a nice fight with the reigning world champion and current points leader. But Mansell has already indicated to almost everyone that the job now is a championship, and it's to garner as many points as he can. Mario and Teo battle just ahead of Danny Sullivan.
And Mario has struggled this weekend. Cannot get this car to turn into these corners and go through them as quickly as he liked. He has been just off the pace. And remember, you only need to be a little bit off the pace because the top 10 cars here were all in the 1 second. You get caught behind and you end up in this traffic jam. And even if you're faster, it's so difficult to make a pass here. But at the moment, he doesn't look faster than Teo Fabi even.
Approaching the halfway point, 41 laps are now complete. Jimmy Vasser, we just mentioned him, and he's off the course. He obviously has caught something. Damage to the left front of the car. He was chasing Nigel Mansell just a few seconds ago. Here it is. He's already hit something there.
I think whoever he was chasing, he caught him. He caught him much faster than he realized. That looks as if he actually hit either the wall or another car. Tears that left front suspension up. Great shame. This is a 92 Lola, but they have the Ford engine in this car, and Jimmy Vasser looked very, very strong.
Yellow going out in that section of the course only because he is secure off the edge of the race course. But the question we now have to ask is, was the contact with Nigel Mansell? And if so, is his car sound?
Well, we don't know that yet, so maybe we can keep an eye on it. We have the luxury, obviously, of looking out the window here out of our commentary booth to see what's going on as Mansell goes by. If he goes by, he's probably in good shape.
Nothing obvious in his times, though he continues well back in the field. And the front runners again begin to encounter slower traffic. And with that, as they come up on Matsushita, it's Bumpy Rahal that's being closed on by Allenser Jr. again.
This is a great fight here. Now, this traffic is playing a bit of a role here. Matsushita needs to move out of the way. He can't pass under yellow, so no matter if he does move out of the way, they really can't drive by.
All reports indicate that Mansell is satisfied with the car and no report of contact between he and Jimmy Vasser.
Watch out, Junior here. Down.
Oh, full course yellow comes out. Full course comes out right then. So we go to a full course caution as Allenser Jr. comes along. And Rahal comes back to the lead because Allenser Jr. recognizes the full course yellow. So once again, we'll slow the entire field down with 42 laps complete at Vancouver. Well, Nigel Mansell's car appears to be in good order. We are under the full course caution right now. Let's go pit side with an update from Gary.
Well, here's Scott Brayton, and Scott is disputing some of the earlier information that we got from Ari Leyendyk about what happened early in this race, because there was almost like a parking lot down there. Now, what happened from your viewpoint?
Well, the traffic was slowed up, and I went to the outside, and right as I got alongside of Ari, he started, I think, or right as I was approaching him, he started to get the same idea to go on the outside, and so we bumped front wheels, and it put me along the concrete wall there. And as I was going down along there, then I got my right rear wheel got me up in the air, and so it bent my suspension, and we couldn't continue. But it was very congested, very tight, and it's just a racing accident.
Tough day because you had to, the crew had to make an engine change after the morning warm-up session to just get you out here to take that green flag.
It's been a very tough weekend, and my Amway crew did an excellent job, and I got to thank all of them, and we'll get them at Mid-Ohio.
All right, Scott, thanks.
Thank you.
Paul?
Scott always leaves it on an up note. There was a report that this car was spraying a great deal of oil and may have slickened up the entire surface. Let's go back and take a look at the replay.
Well, Jimmy Vasser did not hit Nigel Mansell. Watch what happens here. Not able to pull the car back, clouts that outside concrete wall, and that is enough to break off that left front suspension. Send it to first checkbook.
Speaking of Nigel Mansell, as this is Paul Tracy coming back in once again, let's get an update on Nigel from Jan.
Yes, Paul, and Paul Tracy is coming in just to get fuel and tires. His car is okay. Now, Mansell has now radioed in during the caution, saying the car is very loose. He's really getting sideways in the first turn just past the pits. The crew radioed back to him, just hang in there. When you come in for the next stop, we can make a rear wing wicker change, which will give you more downforce. So Mansell not happy with the balance of that car. Paul Tracy, in the meantime, has been out of the pits.
How much do you think that's the oil that's on the course for Marco Greco's car?
I don't think it is at all, because after the warm-up this morning, Mansell was complaining about the car oversteering. That was the one thing that Peter Gibbons, his engineer, was trying to work on to sort out for him. And what it is, basically, it's an extension of the same type of problem that Scott Goodyear has. Keeping the rear tires on these cars and in good order is the key to speed here. Where are we? Canada.
Vancouver.
Yes, and you were some of those places.
Bobby Rahal leads this race. His partner is in the pits now with Gary Gerald.
Indeed. Carl Hogan. Carl, it's great to see this team back up here in front, and I know nobody's happier than you and the people that surround you. Is there anything in particular that's happened to put you back up here as a contender?
Well, I think, we hadn't tested much this year with a new car. And the last couple of weeks we've been able to test at Nazareth and Mid-Ohio. And I think we're starting to learn what the car likes and what it doesn't like. And this course is not a real horsepower course. It's a handling course. And the car is handling very well. And we felt good when it got out of the truck. It was well, and Bobby's good. He's ready to go.
Now, I know there was disappointment that you didn't get the point from the pole position, but yet you had kind of a philosophical aspect about it's better to be angry about things like that than be angry about being back in the middle of the pack.
It's been a long time since we've complained about being on the front row and not at the pole.
All right. Thank you, Carl.
Sure.
Well, Carl can spin around to watch his driver, Bobby Rahal, take the green flag as we come back to full speed racing once again with Rahal at the head of the field, chased still by Al Unser Jr., Scott Goodyear, Stefan Johansson, and Raul Boisel. They are all pulled up together. And then Fittipaldi runs in 6th place. He'll have to improve on that position if he really wants to keep his championship hopes alive.
Good pictures here of Scott Goodyear. He will have a fight on his hands now as Johansson begins to claw his way closer and closer to his rear wing, because Johansson has made great strides here in the race, and we know Goodyear is not that happy with the wheel spin on the back end of his car.
And to add further confirmation, Jimmy Vasser has now reported on his return to the pits that he did not make contact with Nigel Mansell. It was all with the walls. So Nigel's car at least appears to be sound. Update on Stefan now, Jan.
Well, they were very concerned, the Bettenhausen crew, about fuel mileage. Now they don't have to be. They're starting to be able to turn Stefan loose. They say the car is handling very well. It has good traction, but not as quick through the chicanes as the Lola. That's one of the things they talk about the Penske cars, is that it doesn't change direction as quickly. It may put the power down well, but they're suffering right now in the chicane. They're hoping they can move up. Paul?
Well, we may be starting to name this the Mansell move, because it's happened now for the 3rd time this year. He doesn't have to worry about his contact with Jimmy Vasser. Maybe he does have to worry about the fact that he had a light brush with the wall over in 3. We'll keep an eye on Mansell with that one as well. He is certainly not in contention at the front of the field. In fact, he should show up just ahead of Bobby Rahal here shortly, because he is the last car on the leader lap in 11th place.
In 11th place, he did lose a position to Roberto Guerrero when he did have that wall brushing moment, and Mansell, the one who said he's going to take it easy, not take any unnecessary chances, because the championship is what he's fighting for. We spoke about track position earlier. See how important it is. Mansell went from 5th to 10th and has never made up that track position back out on the racetrack. Bentley's in trouble.
Ross Bentley from here in Vancouver, off the edge of the course, out of harm's way, unless they want to get that car restarted and get it going again. Bentley was running in 12th place. Still looking to see if Mansell appears ahead of Bobby Rahal. Rahal's having a spectacular day, seems to be able to handle all comers and to keep Little Al back.
This is where we were used to seeing the Miller Genuine Draft car all last year at the front of the field, and he struggled so much. It's amazing how small things, you watch the rear wishbone bounce up and down here, but it's amazing how some of the small things hamper your performance and put you back down the field where you're not normally used to being. But the measure of a good team is whether you can survive those dark and difficult patches and come back out on top again. This is a mark of a good team here.
You just saw there, too, a good example of that accordion effect that happens in corners under braking. It looks like the second-place car is pulling right up on top of the one it's chasing. That's, of course, because in that case, Rahal was hard on the brakes. That allowed Little Al to close, but then Rahal comes off the corner first and accelerates away, and essentially they go back to the same static position. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Paul, no radio confirmation from Nigel Mansell to the crew about having brushed the wall, but they do acknowledge a stability problem, a handling problem with the race car. They think that on the next stop they'll go up a bit on tire pressure and see if that'll impact the handling characteristics, but it's just one of those days where he's just kind of soldiering along, trying to protect points at mid-pack.
Well, if they're playing with that, Derek, it sounds like they're just searching, that they don't have any real answers at all.
For a team who has been so dominant on so many occasions this year, yet in Toronto it was a disaster for them, and it's not a good day here in Vancouver either on street circuits.
Got a glimpse there of Mansell. Teo Fabi, he runs, actually a glimpse of Mario as Teo Fabi tries to hold off Mario and Danny Sullivan. Locked in a battle for third place now is Scott Goodyear with Stefan Johansson just behind him. Scott just completely lost it a couple of corners back. Here's how it happened.
Now watch his hands on the steering wheel. Look up in the cockpit. Look, he's all over the place trying to catch and hold on to that car. He's way offline, and Johansson isn't quite close enough to make the move.
And staring that wall right in the face here from the onboard camera.
Watch, he takes his hands off the wheel, right off the wheel, actually hits the windscreen, catches it just in time, and drags her back on to the racing line. And
you tell me his heart is not pounding, but he still has to deal with the fact that in that little mistake there, Johansson closed and is now sitting right on the back of Scott Goodyear's third place car.
It's so difficult sometimes to get these cars handling properly.
Well, the handling here, as well as everywhere with the Indy cars now, is so very, very sensitive.
Exactly, and one of the areas that a lot of these people are beginning to work on is shock absorbers. That seems to be the magic black art right now. I mean, Newman Haas runs Olin shock absorbers. Ken Anderson, who works for AJ Foyt, has his own quantum shock absorbers. Brian Berthold, who works for Ganassi, has his own design, which I've in fact used to great effect in my Nissan days. But Derek Walker has now moved to the Penske shock absorber, and they actually attribute those shock absorbers to Scott Goodyear's pole position time. I think Jan Beekes has more on that story.
Well, as far as those shock absorbers and Penske shock absorbers, right now all the front runners are on them, and yet they're not Penske cars. And when Scott Goodyear scored that pole